Welcome, everybody, to this week's episode. We really appreciate you joining us. This podcast really shows us how we can all learn, live, and thrive off of each other. By sharing our knowledge through our conversations, we will impart some knowledge whilst learning ourselves how to progress even further. Here is your host.
Let me introduce, all the way from the UK, who's got up early especially, because it's the morning there, just in case you're wondering. This is Brisbane time, 5:15, and it's early on the same day. It's Tuesday morning, and it's Lou Requena. Have I pronounced your surname correct?
Yeah. That's all right, Mary. That's all right.
Okay. So she is an entrepreneur, and she is one awesome woman. And she is a Tai Chi Qigong. I said, is she a master? She said, no. She's a teacher for over 20 years. And just if you thought that was pretty impressive, because I'm impressed with that, she has been a heart-centered, and she is very heart-centered, because I know Lou a little bit, a heart-centered coach for over 14 years. So in my book, that makes you, Lou, very qualified to be our guest today. So welcome to you. Thank you for starting your day with us. I'm so appreciative. How are you this morning?
I'm good, Mary. Good. It's, as you know, quite unusual for me. I'm not an early bird by nature, but when I do get up early, it's good. It's a good day here today. So yeah, thank you. And
you're also what I consider a very active member in our personal development hub. So does that mean you're a keen personal development person? I am. My view has changed somewhat over the years, but I started my journey quite early, and I vowed to myself years ago that I would always work on myself and strive to improve and make life better, really, for myself and consequently for those around me. And that's what I've done, and I do. That's beautiful. And if we were to kind of draw a line in the sand when this whole journey of personal development started, what would that take you back to in your mind? Well, a very poignant time that brings up for me is, it could have started before, but a really good friend of mine who first introduced me to Louise Hay and Heal Your Life. Because we'd been talking, I'd been experiencing some depression and different things, and we worked together, and our good friends. And she had come across this book and said, "Look, I'm going through it. Why don't you try this?" And I distinctly remember her giving me the book and showing me. So yeah, I think probably that was a while ago, wasn't it? Long time ago. I think we were probably maybe not even 20. Late teens, I think. That's interesting, isn't it? I had the pleasure of hearing Louise Hay live and so I was thinking about what year was that, 1989 or something. 1990, it was thereabouts, and I was a bit awestruck with that book. What was your feeling when you got into You Can Heal Your Life? What was the first thing? It was very new to me, obviously, but it struck a chord in as much as, well, if I think differently, then maybe I can feel differently. And it just, because the book may have been updated since and changed, but I've still got the original. It's like a Bible. It's so sort of bent over and written on and everything, pages that fall out. But yeah, the stories that she shares as well, and the examples, and the fact that, if you go back to your childhood and things that have happened, and so it's the background that really appealed to me as well, that actually resonated at that time. That's fantastic. And I love what you're saying. If you're listening today, here's a tip straight off. We've only got going. If you think differently, you can feel differently. That's what you said, correct? Yeah, and you've found that to be true, yes? Yeah. I mean, it took some time, and some things sat well, some things didn't, but I know it definitely got me through, helped me along that part of the journey for sure. That's fantastic. So you're very much Tai Chi Qigong. How do you put all this together with your work, Lou? Tell me more about how you do all that.
For me, Mary, I discovered in my own personal journey that you cannot separate, in my opinion, the mind and the body, that what the mind doesn't sort out, the body will, or vice versa. And the body stores energies, which can be stuck there for ages. And along my journey, for me, personal development has included lots of different things: body work, shamanistic work, retreats I've done, all sorts of things. So I encompass all of that in the whole personal development, personal growth world, let's say. So the Tai Chi and Qigong, I'd always been fascinated by the Eastern way and the serenity of it, and almost the mysticism, really, that the less spoken, it was just the power in the words not spoken, in the spirit. And I came across, I suppose one would call it in the personal development field as well, the attraction. I came across a yin yang sign in a local paper about a healing group. And then I went along to that because it just appealed to me. I had no idea what it was, really. And from there, I realized that somebody was teaching Tai Chi from there. And that's how I first started. So I encompass it as in, I need to clean my body's field of energy. And that's what I portray to others as well, that, the body carries things and we absorb different energies every day, our own and from outside, whether we like it or not. And not all of that energy is great. So it's like doing your washing at home. It's like washing your internal body.
So when the student is ready, the teacher appeared, and there you were, right, front and center, ready to learn, and it's become a lifetime learning and teaching. Is that fair to say? That's fantastic.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And in terms of circle of influence, have you got a good circle of influence of people in alignment with you about personal development, or is it very much an insular experience for you?
I've dipped in and out, really, and I find that I think I would say right now it's more insular. Obviously, apart from the group we belong to, your group, and people I've come across there. I am quite insular generally, anyway, and that's something I'm aware of, that you can have too much of that. But that's what I found has helped me now, is that whatever else is going on outside, I can do that for myself. I can find a way. I've got so many different things, sometimes too many, but no, there's things I go to. Qigong is primarily my first love. But, the Tai Chi, the mind stuff, I just know myself better because of that. So when I haven't got that outer body, let's say the outer group or whatever, for me, what's important is that I can do it for myself. And that's where I'm at, really, I think, what I've grown into.
That's quite remarkable what you're saying, isn't it? You're saying that you can do it for and by yourself from your massive, that's my words, resources within you.
Yeah.
Do you believe then that that's enough to nourish and thrive from, knowing personal development, knowing yourself, that everything that's available in terms of you thriving is available within you? That's talked about a lot, isn't it?
Yeah.
Sorry,
No, not at all. It's funny because it's a question I often sort of, well, not consciously ask myself, but find myself in that space. As I said, knowing myself better, I know that I personally can border on taking that too far and getting too used to that insular isolation, if you like, sometimes. So yes and no. For me, my core is really important. So as long as I can come back to myself, which is what Qigong gives me, what my own sort of thinking mindset gives me, then I'm in a good place. But I don't think you can do it totally on your own. I mean, I will listen to different things or read different things. but that's at the core for me. It's very much in keeping with the whole Tai Chi Qigong ethos, if you like, about nature, and the tree. And if your roots are strong, your trunk is solid, then really it can withstand anything. And I do believe that. I believe that that's what I've cultivated and am cultivating. But can I do life totally on my own? No. I like to, a part of me likes to think so, but it's not true.
I like that, the tree, the roots and the branches, and that's become more popular, hasn't that whole tree of life? But if you go back to the absolute basics of it, I had a tree taken down in my yard, a white Australian gum recently, and I said to the arborist, how old do you think this tree is? And he said 80 at least years old.
Wow.
And I said, well, what's the root system like? And he said, oh, as high as it is there, as low as it is there.
Yeah.
And I think about that with the whole notion of personal development. The more that you learn, the deeper you can become in your awareness. Is that something that you would align with?
Yeah, most definitely. And I'm always a seeker, if you like. It's funny because there's that perception, and I have taken that on. Some people have said to me, and you may have heard the same thing, I'm sure others have, oh, when will you settle down, or you've not found what you want, or whatever. And I think, but life is so rich with interesting things and learning. I mean, a member of my family only this week said, but what is there else to learn, and why, what? And I think, oh my goodness, there's so much every day. But that's me. So, it's funny how we can get stuck in other people's thinking about, what we should do, what we shouldn't do. But yeah, I absolutely. I love finding out about things and learning new ways, because there's always a way. That's what's got me here, is believing whatever happens, if you have that mindset, there is always a way. And that really has got me through my life.
Oh, a seeker. I like that, what you're saying. I'm a seeker. That's beautiful. And I agree with what you're saying. And I think if you fail to stop seeking, or fail to keep understanding, and then, of course, my favorite thing, if you stop being curious, you might as well stop living.
Yes. Yeah, similar thing, curiosity, seeking. It's that childlike wonder, and thinking, oh, what's behind this door, kind of thing, just even that. And it could be nothing, but if you don't look, you never find out.
Absolutely. I noticed, Lou, you've talked a couple of times, you've used the word mindset. What does that mean for you?
Well, it's funny because it's not really my word. I think it's a word that I've heard a lot of lately, but I think again, mental health, that's been spoken about more now. So it's my mental capacity, if you like, my capacity to think, how I'm thinking, what's going on in my mind. I think that's what I mean by that.
How I'm thinking.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's good, isn't it? Good to ask yourself that, and that deepens your awareness. And let's go. I was listening to you talking about the relationship between you and how you can go within with your Tai Chi practice, Qigong practice. So what do you think of this whole notion of being versus doing?
It's interesting because there's a big part of me that's a doer, and I liken it to sort of the more masculine side, if you like, but I know that when that gets out of control, or it's too much, I'm trying too hard, it's not a good balance. Being is something I still work on, in all fairness. And I think, the recent times with the pandemic, and I think when you work for yourself, you know, it's a challenge not to be doing a lot of the time. So I've realized of late that being is something that I'm cultivating more of, or I could do with cultivating more of, because it's in those moments of actually doing nothing, sometimes just being present, that things come, and that, you know, I can actually find my way. I think we've come into a world that's so busy, ever changing in seconds, that it's sometimes I wish I was on a desert island and that's all I was doing was being, to be fair. I think that's a lovely, sometimes, yeah, I crave that, the simplicity of it. So it's something I am conscious that I could be better at, actually, Mary, the being.
Well, that's lovely. And this is Mary Scott. You're on the Personal Development Hub. I am speaking with, let's see if I can say it correct this time, Lou Requena from the UK, who's an entrepreneur and an avid personal development person, let's say. And we're talking about being and doing. And one of the things you just said, Lou, and make some comments, by the way. If you're here live, we welcome comments. Give Lou some feedback about her massive contribution today, because that's why we have it, so we can share the body of knowledge that we have in this group of 600 plus people. So I'm just going to repeat something that Lou said, and she might want to add something to it. Cultivate the being. And how do you cultivate being as opposed to doing? There's my question for you, Lou.
Yeah, well, actually, some of that comes through, a lot of that comes through movement for me, because movement is really important, always has been. You know, my family's quite sporty, or used to be, but I, from a child, have always been very independent and very, I love movement. So being physical is important to me. So a lot of the being can come through some doing physically. Qigong does it for me. Any kind of exercise, if I'm out walking or trekking or whatever it is that I might choose to do, that actually helps me, because it's funny, isn't it, how you teach what you need to know is sometimes. I'm not by nature a very relaxed person. You know, everything is fast for me. Or used to be even faster. I remember years ago when I was always up to something, aerobics, this, that, and the other, charity dues. And I came across yoga and I thought, I can't be doing this. This is far too slow for me. But I gave it a chance because I knew I needed it, or a part of me did. And then I cultivated a bit of a balance. So yeah, movement is very important, and it helps me to actually come into being.
Isn't that interesting? Sense? Well, yes, it does make sense. And it's quite interesting. One of the things, because I've watched a lot of your reels and you do some demonstrations about your practices, your Tai Chi and Qigong. And I think, oh my gosh, you seem so peaceful and in flow, so calm. So is that not always the case?
No, not at all. People get a completely different idea of me, I think. You know, it's not a false thing. I think I just give that demeanor of, you know, and I am actually inside, but I'm also quite a nervous person, really. There's a part of me that always has been. And for me, it gets into my stomach area, into that area, and that gets into turmoil. So that's why I've really discovered, for me, the correlation, the marriage between the body and the mind and the spirit, and that I can't separate one from the other. So I will stop. I know if my tummy's playing up, or, you know, my breathing's a bit out or whatever, I think, oh, I've tipped over the edge here, you know, we've got to get myself into balance. And so actually, going back to your original question, I am getting better at cultivating more of a balance, or a healthier balance, between work, rest, and play. So rest is not something that comes easy to me. I will try and stretch the day out in one way or another, whether I'm watching something, whether I'm listening to something, whether I'm exercising or whatever. yeah, it's just getting as much out of it. But yeah, it's what goes on inside is different from what you see outside. Not too different actually, to be fair, but a lot of it can be held in. I think when I'm around
today.
No, I love this. I love this.
I was going to say, I wanted to
this kind of thing. No, I could do this kind of thing for ages. However, it's an interesting question, because nerves and excitement are just like the mirror, one to the other, aren't they? So
they are indeed, and they're like
I can
this.
get very excited. Yeah. I can get very excited. So maybe I misunderstand that myself sometimes when I'm just overexcited.
I love what you're saying about I'm going back to being and doing, because I think I believe it's a massive challenge for people to be. And I've always thought, when I reflect like that, do you like that? When I've thought and reflect, same thing, about being, that it's about stillness, sitting quietly. And you present a very different path to being through movement, because you say being and then you say movement. You go, well, how do those two go together? Because isn't being just sitting, and then no. So you, like, it's good because you're giving a path for people to cultivate being through movement, which I'd never really thought about before. I think that's a lovely way to describe it. And if you're listening today live, there's a really good tip there. If you thought being, like me, was sitting quietly in silence and reflecting, think about what Lou's saying here. She's actually providing another way in to being through movement. So does that mean, sorry, go on. What were you going to say?
No, I was going to say that sparked off because something, I know, part of you know me more now, but years ago, I think that stems from for me, when I was very depressed, clinically depressed, we were taught to, from that space, I couldn't do anything. And I didn't know who I was. I couldn't do anything. So there was lots of therapeutic intervention, as in occupational therapy, if you like. So cooking, playing, gardening, all sorts of things, because that takes you out of your head when you're in that state. And that could be so true for anybody. You don't have to be in that space. You could be worried, you could be grieving, you could be doing whatever. So it's that balance between, well, you can't sort this out, you're overwrought, your system is just overwired there, so let's do something. And from that doing, I find equilibrium. I can come back to that state of calm and being. So that's where that comes from. And I learned a lot of that. So whether it's people drawing, jogging, cooking, gardening, pottery, we did all sorts of things, I'm really grateful for learning that, because when you're so wired up, that's the only way I can put it, which is a bit of an oxymoron, because if you're very depressed, you're numb, but that's the way I can describe it today. So for anybody listening, perhaps who's going through that, it's really important that you don't just stay with that. You may not feel something from doing something, but going out for a walk, being around with people, scribbling, drawing, whatever it is, can just get that flow going.
That's lovely. And I thank you for giving context to how that happens, and some very practical and important, precious is another word that comes, having been in that state to where you are now, a real leader in your field. And would you say that your personal development journey is the foundation to how you live your life, or is that me taking it a bit extreme?
This is where, Mary, perhaps it's a bit controversial or it might sound it. I think and this is my perception, my opinion, that some of the personal development stuff, let's call it that, has caused me, or I have seen it to make me feel that I need fixing, changing. I think it's, for me, the whole personal development is everything, is going out walking, is, like I shared a post the other day, is being in the company of a small child who I can't, who just engaged me in a way that changed my whole mindset that day, my whole mood. And it was so simple. Or it can be doing Qigong, or it can be having a good laugh, or playing in the sand, whatever. So it's everything. But I think for me, if I were to just say it's the books, it's this, it's that, I think sometimes that's too much for me. There's too much of it about, change this and do that. By the time you finish, I was thinking about this morning. One of my first Tai Chi instructor, although he needed help at the time, that when I looked back, but he said, the more self-help books you read, the more help you're going to need. Well, actually, there's some truth in that,
Well, that comes to mind. I'm sorry.
No, go on.
Well, I think it's a good reminder, because what you're saying is that have some discernment.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And make your own choices about A, what books you read, and B, what courses you take.
Yes, exactly. And how much you rely on that. It's a bit like therapy, that can become addictive. That can become a crutch, so that people don't live their lives, don't find their own way. So with anything, I think it's about, and I guess that's what, when you asked me originally about, is it something that's insular or not? It's developing that self-reliance, which is what I have done.
Absolutely, you have. Yes, and I know some of your story, and clearly how you live your life has demonstrated massive change. This is a word, I've used it 3 times. Let's say quite a lot of change in your life, which you have gone about learning this journey, let's call it, in a very diligent and disciplined manner. Do you think that's important for most people out there in terms of application of books that you can read, courses you can do? Do you think you need to be disciplined and diligent about that? What's your feeling about that?
Yeah, it's funny, twofold for me, really, because I do admire when I meet people. I met somebody walking the other day, a lady and her granddaughter was so high-spirited. And, it was funny, the conversation we had, very spontaneous, complete strangers. We just started chatting. And she had this way about her, just try anything, everything, whatever. It doesn't matter if it doesn't go well. And I really admire that, because I haven't always been like that. And I'm not, I can be a bit too cautious sometimes. I've learned to be more the other way, but, I'm still like that inherently, I think, and can overthink things. She was demonstrating something different. So I think that, yes, there's a space for being disciplined, but there's also a space for just throwing all caution to the wind, just finding your own way, really. I think the danger, if I may use that word, with some of it, the thinking around personal development, is that you've always got to be changing your thinking. You've always got to be doing this or doing that, and this is a way for this and that, and it can be mind-blowing. And it's in some ways, I wish, there's a thing, I wish that I'd just found one person and followed that person. But of course that changes as I have evolved, as we evolve. You suddenly go to somebody else, and I'll dip in and out of books, because I think now that makes more sense to me now, because yes, I've developed more. Whereas sometimes I think, what on earth are they talking about? But I think there's a lot of it now about, you know, do this, do it this way, do it that way. And it's like, oh, too much. So
Well,
that's where the insular bit comes for me. I need to
yes,
be
that's
in that.
really good what you're saying, and I agree. And I think what you're referring to, and correct me if I'm on the wrong path, but it sounds like there's a lot of, what should I say, talk about quick fix personal development.
Absolutely.
What you do
This
in
is the
5
way.
sessions is do
Exactly.
this and you
And
fix.
this will change your life forever.
Yeah, and I go, no, won't.
I've tried that.
And I think that's the thing to be mindful of. And if you're a seeker, it means the journey, like it's a continuum, isn't it?
Absolutely. Yeah, I like that word.
Gosh, we're going to have to finish soon. Has there been an event in your life, Lou, that personal development or your knowledge and what you've learned has created a game-changing event or moment in your life?
If I may say two, and I'll be mindful of time. One, which I'll always hold dear, and it's born from a very sad place, but it turned my life around, was when I was very depressed. I'd had a couple of breakdowns and I was just so desperate. And in all honesty, Mary, and I say this for anybody who's in that space, but also wondering about their mental health, that I was desperate, and I thought, if this next thing that I was about to go into doesn't work, then, you know, that's it. I'm done with life. And I meant it, because I was that low. But it was a book that landed in my space. And for the life of me, I cannot remember what it was called or who it was by, but I can see I think I got it from a charity shop or picked it up from the library somewhere. And it was about depression. And it was my first meeting with taking responsibility for what's happened. It's not your fault, but it is your responsibility as to what you do with this now, so it can change your life. And it took me down a rabbit hole that was so scary, but was so profound that actually that I think started to save my life, literally, and my mind. So that's one. And the other one is when I was in Australia, funnily enough, and I was talking about this the other day, and I was playing tricks with my mind, and I knew that I was, because I was going to a healing retreat the north of Sydney. And normally I'd print off everything I needed, but I didn't. And I was staying with my ex-boss and her husband, who I'd become friends with, and their daughter. And I knew, the only thing I remembered, Mary, I was going to a place beginning with M, that was like the sound of a singer. And that was it, right? It was Morissette. So I thought, what on earth am I doing? And it was a Sunday. So I got to the train station and I said to the guy at the cashier, I said, listen, this is going to sound really cuckoo, but please play along with me. I need to go to this station beginning with M that sounds like a singer. He said, well, we've only got 2 stations begin with M. One is Morissette. I said, that's it. He said, are you sure? I thought I was mad. So I got on the train, but I was an hour late. So I couldn't get picked up by a volunteer. So the only options were taxi, which was a lot of money. Everything was closed, no internet cafe, nothing. So I thought, I'll try my luck. I spoke to the guy behind the counter. Could I come back there? Check my email, I'll have all the details. He wouldn't have it. He was really mean. He didn't let me do it. So I went to the phone and I tried the number I had for this retreat, nothing, because it was only the number for during the week. So I put my rucksack down, threw my hands in the air, started crying. And I said to God, the universe, look, I don't know what else to do. So help me out here. 2 young boys came round the corner, one on crutches, brothers, asked me what was wrong. They said their mum was coming soon, she'd help me. So she turns up in this old camper van from the 70s, said, if you're happy to come with us, I'll take the boys back and we'll have a cup of tea. We'll work out what you need. I can help you. I know where you need to go. All you need to do is pay me my petrol money, which was really lovely. So we get there, my passport and everything is in the rucksack in the back of the car. We're chatting. And then suddenly I think, gosh, this could be a mad woman I'm speaking to. I've got my passport. I don't know, because she's talking, telling me a life story. So anyway, I cut to the chase, say, look, if you don't mind, I really need to go. So we drive along. She has to stop again. I pay the petrol. Then she stops again. I'm thinking, what's going on here? She has no idea, but she gets me there, and she has to leave me at the top of this hill. And then I find out that where I was going and this healing retreat was something she could also have done with, because we shared a similar background. And she said, were you frightened being with me? I said, a little bit, yes, because I didn't know. She said, I understand that. I was in your shoes before, and I was frightened traveling on my own. And actually, it didn't turn out too well. So that's why I wanted to offer that. And we were like, met in the middle. I've gone shivery, because she was an angel for me that day. So that day I threw everything down. I asked the question and I was given the answer, and I got to where I was meant to go. And it was a very interesting journey. So when I think you do put your hands up and surrender like that, what you need comes to you.
Oh, wow. That is just a great story. And it's true, isn't it? If you can have the courage and the faith to commit to the universe or God helping you and providing you a way forward, look what happens. And absolutely. I imagine you've got lots more of those stories, so we might need to bring you back, Lou.
Yeah, I'd love to, Mary.
I want to thank you so much for giving up your time today, especially early morning for you, for being here today live in the Personal Development Hub Facebook group that we value, and you are one of our valued members, and thank you so much. And enjoy the comments. Come back in and read them. You've brought a tremendous amount of value, and thanks for your time. You have a great day, and I look forward to next time when we talk.
Thank you, Mary. Lovely to talk to you. Bye, everybody. Thanks, Mary. Bye-bye now. Bye-bye.
This week's episode has come to an end, but the fun doesn't have to stop here. If you have any questions, suggestions, or feedback, head over right now to Twitter and Facebook and like, share, and get involved. Join us next time.